Today I am continuing to read from On the Shortness of Life by Seneca. Bion aptly remarks that plucking out hair hurts bald people just as much as those with hair. You can make the same point that rich and poor suffer equal distress, for both groups cling to their money and suffer it if it is torn away from them. But as I said, it is easier to bear and simpler not to acquire than to lose. So you will notice that those people are more cheerful whom fortune has never favored than those whom she has deserted. That great-souled man, Diogenes, realized this and arranged that nothing could be taken from him. You can call this state poverty, deprivation, need, and give this freedom from care any shameful name you like. I shall not count this man happy if you can find me another who has nothing to lose. If I am not mistaken, it is a royal position among all the misers, the cheats, the robbers, the kidnappers, to be the only one who cannot be harmed. If anyone has any doubts about Diogenes' felicity, he can also have doubts about the condition of the immortal gods. Whether they are living unhappily because they have no estates, parks, and costly farms, let out to foreign tenants and vast receipts of interest in the forum. Are you not ashamed of yourselves? All of you who are smitten by wealth, come, look at the heavens. You will see the gods devoid of possessions and giving everything though they have nothing. Do you think a man who has stripped himself of all the gifts of chance is poor, or that he resembles the immortal gods? Demetrius, Pompey's freedman, was not ashamed to be richer than Pompey. Would you say he was thereby happier? He used to keep the tally of his slaves daily, like a general reviewing his army, where previously he would have thought it riches to have 2 under-slaves and a roomier cell. Yet when Diogenes was told that his only slave had run away, he did not think it worth the trouble to get him back. It would be degrading, he said. If Manes can live without Diogenes and not Diogenes without Manes, I think what he meant was, mind your own business, fortune. Diogenes has nothing of yours now. My slave has run away. No, it is I who have got away free. A household of slaves needs clothing and food. So many bellies of ravenous creatures must be looked after. Garments bought, thieving hands guarded against, and services employed in the face of tears and curses. How happier is the man who owes nothing to anybody except the one he can most easily refuse, himself. But since we have not such strength of will, we must at least curtail our possessions, so we may be less exposed to the blows of fortune. Men's bodies are better fitted for warfare if they can be compressed into their armor than if they bulge out of it and by their very bulk are exposed on every side to wounds. So the ideal amount of money is that which neither falls within the range of poverty nor far exceeds it. Moreover, we shall be satisfied with this limit if we previously practiced thrift, without which no amount of wealth is enough, and no amount is not ample enough. Especially as a remedy is to hand, and poverty can itself turn to riches by practicing economy. Let us get used to banishing ostentation and to measuring things by their qualities of function rather than display. Let good banish hunger, drink banish thirst, let sex indulge its needs. Let us learn to rely on our limbs and to adjust our style of dress and our way of living, not to the newfangled patterns, but to the customs of our ancestors. Let us learn to increase our self-restraint, to curb luxury, to moderate ambition, and to soften anger, to regard poverty without prejudice, to practice frugality, even if many are ashamed of it, to apply to nature's needs the remedies that are cheaply available, to curb as if in fetters unbridled hopes and a mind obsessed with the future, and to aim to acquire our riches from ourselves rather than from fortune. It is not possible that all the manifold and unfair disasters of life can be so repelled that many storm winds will not still assail those who spread their sails ambitiously. We must restrict our activities so that fortune's weapons miss their mark, and for that reason exiles and calamities have proved to benefit us, and greater disasters have been mended by lesser ones. When the mind is less amenable to instruction and cannot be curved by milder dreams, why should it not be helped by having a dose of poverty and disgrace in general ruin, dealing with evil by evil? So let us get used to dining without a mass of people, to being slave to fewer slaves, to acquiring clothes for their proper purpose, and to living in more restricted quarters. Not only in running and the contests of the circus, but in this race course of our lives, we must keep to the inner track. Even in our studies, where expenditure is most worth, while its justification depends on its moderation, what is the point of having countless books and libraries whose titles the owner could scarcely read through in his whole lifetime? The mass of books burdens the student without instructing them, and it is far better to devote yourself to a few authors than to get lost among many. 40,000 books were burned in the library at Alexandria. Someone else can praise it as a sumptuous monument to a royal wealth like Titus Livius, who calls it a notable achievement of the good taste and devotion of kings. That was not good taste or devotion, but scholarly self-indulgence. In fact, not even scholarly, since they had collected the books not for scholarship but for display. In the same way, you will find that many people who lack even elementary culture keep books not as tools of learning, but as decorations for their dining rooms. So we should buy enough books for use and none just for embellishment. But this, you say, is a more honorable expense than squandering money on Corinthian bronzes and on pictures. But excess in any sphere is reprehensible. How can you excuse a man who collects bookcases of citron wood and ivory, amasses the works of unknown and or third-rate authors, and then sits yawning among all his thousands of books and gets most enjoyment out of the appearance of his volumes and their labels? Thus you will see that the idlest men possess sets of orations and histories with crates piled up to the ceiling, for nowadays an elegant library too has joined hot and cold baths as an essential adornment for a house. I would certainly excuse people for erring through an excessive love of study, but these collections of works of inspired genius, along with their several portraits, are required only for pretentious wall decoration. But perhaps you have become involved in some difficult situation in life in which either public or private circumstances have fastened a noose on your unawareness, which you can neither loosen nor snap. You must reflect that fettered prisoners only at first feel the weight of the shackles on their legs. In time, when they have decided not to struggle against but to bear them, they learn from necessity to endure with fortitude and from habit to endure with ease. In any situation in life, you will find delights and relaxations and pleasures if you are prepared to make light of your troubles and not let them distress you. In no respect has nature put us more in her debt, since knowing to what sorrows we were born, she contrived habit to soothe our disasters, and so quickly makes us grow used to the worst ills. No one could endure lasting adversity if it continued to have the same force as when it first hits us. We are all tied to fortune, some by a loose and golden chain, and others by a tight one of baser metal. But what does it matter? We are all held in the same captivity, and those who have bound others are themselves in bonds. Unless you think perhaps that the left-hand chain is lighter. One man is bound by high office, another by wealth. Good birth weighs down some, and a humble origin others. Some bow under the rule of other men, and some under their own. Some are restricted to one place by exile, others by priesthoods. All life is a servitude. So if you have to get used to your circumstances, complain about them as little as possible, and grasp whatever advantage they have to offer. No condition is so bitter that a stable mind cannot find some consolation in it. Often small areas can be skillfully divided up to allow room for many uses, and arrangement can make a narrow piece of ground inhabitable. Think your way through difficulties. Harsh conditions can be softened, restricted ones can be widened, and heavy ones can weigh less on those who know how to bear them. Moreover, we must not send our desires on a distant hunt, but allow them to explore what is near to hand. Since they do not submit to being totally confined, abandoning those things which are impossible or difficult to attain, let us pursue what is readily available and entices our hopes, yet recognize that all are equally trivial, outwardly varied in appearance but uniformly futile within. And let us not envy those who stand higher than we do, What look like towering heights are precipices. On the other hand, those whom an fair fate has put in a critical condition will be safer for lowering their pride in things that are in themselves proud and reducing their fortune as far as they can to a humble level. Indeed, there are many who are forced to cling to their pinnacle because they cannot descend without falling. But they must bear witness that this in itself is their greatest burden, that they are forced to be a burden to others, and that they are not so much elevated as impaled. By justice, gentleness, kindness, and lavish generosity, let them prepare many defenses against later disasters to give them hope of hanging on more safely. But nothing can rescue us from these mental vacillations so efficiently as always to set some limit to advancements, and not to allow fortune the decision when they should seize, but ourselves to stop far short of that. In this way we shall have some desires to stimulate the mind, but being limited they will not lead us to a state of uncontrolled uncertainty.